Okay.
Lights, camera, action. We're back for your satisfaction at Action Business Furniture Studios is where it's happening. We have your host, John Byron, and a special guest star appearance from Jill Olson from the Washington Policy Center. Yes. Hey, this is going to be an amazing time. Be sure to like this video and engage in the comments below.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Welcome, everybody. Excellent. I love the energy that we get going with this. You just get us started so well. Appreciate that, Mike. So yeah, welcome. It's Friday. It's 3 o'clock. We are here at Action Business Furniture. Want to always shout out thanks to them for hosting us. And we do have a very exciting topic, and Jill is here to share with that very soon. But before we jump into that, it's always nice to get some introductions around the table. So I'll start to my right.
Thank you. Lisa Miller, I'm an arbitrator, I'm an attorney, and I do our Lisa Miller's Legal Minute. So just 4 litigation trends very quickly. There's a focus on when you do need an attorney, which, you know, it's not always your fault. It's sometimes these things just land on you. But sometimes you don't want to pay hourly because that can really escalate. So there's more interest now on fixed fees and flat fees, and it's the sort of thing you can bring up with an attorney that you're interviewing. And a lot of people feel like if I pay a flat fee, the attorney is going to secretly finish this in 2 minutes, and I'm going to pay for the whole hour.
Sure.
And I just wanted to make a note that from an ethical standpoint, attorneys are not allowed to do that. If you have a flat fee or a fixed fee agreement and you don't earn that money, it doesn't matter that there's a contract. If you don't earn that by doing the work, you may not bill for it. You either have to make a refund or you're not allowed to collect for it. So I don't want anyone here to feel like you're trapped in a cage just because you've agreed to a flat fee or a fixed fee. It can still be related directly to how much value you get and how much work is actually done. So you should feel a little more comfortable about that. And also, sometimes people feel like to get great service, they have to go with a very big firm. Very big firms are charging, some of them, over $2,000 an hour. It's really cost prohibitive. I know, it's shocking. But there are some very small firms, just like we have a lot of talent around this table and in this room. We don't have less talent just because we're in smaller businesses. And it's the same thing with law firms. But smaller law firms don't advertise as much, so you don't know about them. And I just wanted to point out that you can check on them with Chambers and Partners, and they do a lot of vetting and a lot of ratings, so you can get an idea of what you're considering. Also, there's some data privacy litigation that might be relevant to everyone here. Even though it's out of California, if your website is viewed by someone in California, you can be sued under the California. I know, shocking. But you're everywhere, you know, I mean, that's the flip side. It's a two-sided coin, right? You can reach everyone and now everyone could sue you. So just be aware of the California Invasion of Privacy Act, and it's $5,000 per violation. I know it's per count, so it does add up. So just be careful about the California Invasion of Privacy Act, SIPA, and make sure that you're in compliance. And then we are expecting an upswing in bankruptcy activity. You know, the markets are in turmoil. Certain markets are softening up because of economic conditions. So there's an expectation that bankruptcy practice or need is going to increase. And I've had clients in my office crying because they're needing to declare bankruptcy. And I just want to assure everyone it's constitutional. It's, you know, the founding fathers created this right to declare bankruptcy. It's to support the U.S. economy, make it strong. The economy can't grow without credit. A credit market creates growth. When you have credit, you're going to have debt. You're going to have some debt that doesn't work out. So the economy can't grow with a lot of bad, uncollectible debt just hanging around. It's got to get discharged. So you're a hero.
I like that.
Right.
Awesome.
Exercising your constitutional right. You're welcome to come in and cry. And I'm very sympathetic, and I have, you know, but and of course you don't want to be happy, certainly, that things didn't work out. But I think if it helps, blame it on bad business advice. Right?
Yeah.
Not your fault.
Yeah.
Bad business advice.
I like it.
Next.
Awesome. I love the Lisa Miller Minute.
Yes, Lisa
Appreciate it.
Miller
Yes.
Minute.
Can we just go into a whole bunch of these I'd like to talk about?
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, well, some other time, some other
Yeah.
time. It's only 1 minute though.
I
How
love
many
it.
minutes, how long did I take?
I
How
know,
many
you
seconds?
did good. You
Okay,
did
good.
We'll get a timer. We'll get a
Yes.
countdown next time.
Anybody want to follow that? I don't know.
Dave, you're up.
Hi, I'm Dave Ribble, and I have Stand Out Marketing Strategies and Stand Out Mastery. It's a program that helps everybody communicate, connect, and collaborate better than they ever have. And we have something on the 26th of this month. It's going to be at the Southside Community Center on 27th in Spokane, and we're gonna do an all-day training with a lot of breakouts and food and fun and getting to the heart of it. And I can't wait, and I want everybody in the world to sign up for that, and please come. We have flyers like this.
Who else on the faculty for this? I mean, I know we'll see you, but who else might we see when we go?
You might see Rob Reuter, Professor Rob Reuter. He might be there. I think we can talk him into it. My wife is Gay Kruger Ribble, and she is 25 years actress, singer, dancer, performer. And she talks a lot about limiting beliefs and getting through to some of the things that we freeze up on when we try to go out and network with people. There's a lot going on there. This particular card says transform how you connect, shift from network to net fun, learn new skills, gain new tools, dynamic interactive breakouts, third-party endorsement magic,
That's
and it
very
is,
important, yeah.
and follow through.
Ooh, follow up.
We're gonna be covering a lot of good stuff.
For $35, you get an awful lot.
Yeah, you get 35 and you get food too. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's,
But we'll have
I don't
some
think there's anything that's that valuable.
Hopefully we'll, thank you.
Available, yeah.
No,
Pay you,
awesome.
pay you.
Yeah,
Um,
pay you later.
But one of the things is that we have sponsor tables. We're hoping to have some sponsors so that all these people that are coming can take on the breaks, you know, they can go over and talk to these networking groups that have shown up and say, okay, what do you guys do? And, you know, how do you do it and all that? This group's gonna be represented. And we're excited about that as well.
Awesome.
Dave Ribble, Stand Out Mastery, come be with us, 26th.
Looking
Thank you,
forward to it.
Thank you.
Ray?
Hello, yeah, I'm Zane. I'm with Zebra Go, and we help small business owners answer phone calls and get people on the schedule using our software that we developed in-house. And so we handle that whole customer communication piece and really help small business owners get their time back and be able to rest a little bit easier. We don't have an event, but I am attending our Connect Journey to Growth event this Tuesday evening, and so that should be a fun. They've got some great guest speakers there talking about just their journey in business ownership, so it should be a good event.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandy Armchando with Restyle Interiors. And I have a tricky website, it's restyleinteriors.net.
All right.
Everybody tries to do the .com and they go to a different one of my, at least it's still one of my websites. So I specialize in one-day room makeovers or one-day redesign. I also do virtual consultations, so if you're not super close to the area, we can still help you. That's basically what I wanted to share today. So Sandy, Restyle Interiors, thank you.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Joe Diego, Cantu commercial real estate broker. It's my primary job to get people into leases without going into the courtroom. That's probably one of the biggest emphasis we have. Problem solver. We got to get creative in these days in this economy. So
Yeah.
just trying to look for you guys.
Awesome. Sure. Great.
Welcome.
Welcome.
All right, Rob Bruder with IDIC Designs, Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations. And that is my philosophy as a technology coach and entrepreneur. And so I work with small business owners that need to wrangle in their technology and get the best results that they can without spending a lot of money. And so if you are out on a limb and not quite sure which way to go, IDIC Designs can help you build a plan and strategy for your economic growth. So,
Excellent.
IDIC Designs and Rob Reuter.
Welcome.
I'm Jillian Olson. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm the director for the Young Professionals Program with the Washington Policy Center, where we are a free market think tank and we help young professionals get connected to business leaders, community leaders, and get educated on what it means to have a free market system.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll hear a little bit more from you in a minute. I'm Jonathan Byron, I'm the host, and I sell houses and sometimes commercial properties in conjunction with folks like Jose? Joe.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Just
just
about the same.
Yeah. Well, Mandy's not here. I actually did want to give a shout out to Mandy, is normally here. She does our name tags, and it helps me just stay in the moment and not have to memorize names. You were gesturing, was that?
No,
Just a shout out to Mandy. Yeah.
shout out to Mike.
Also, yeah, Mike's hovering, so, our SSBE sponsor, go.
My hands are high, my feet are low, and this is how we PepsiCo. PepsiCo, PepsiCo, PepsiCo.
Thank you, Dynamite Mike.
Who was that man?
Who is that man? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I hope people buy houses. Enough about that. We are talking about policy today, and I do want to give a little more of an introduction to Jill. I met Jill a year ago, and I don't even remember which event we first met at, but we like ran into each other and just kind of like had these little micro interactions. And every space that I see Jill in, she shows up with a presence that is rare. And so her ability to articulate things, I'm very excited. And the other reason I'm excited about this is I was actually talking to Leonidas, who's sometimes here, my 14-year-old son, and he articulated what I also feel, and I think a lot of business owners feel, is we hear the word politics.
Yes.
We hear the word government, we hear even legal and law, and we're just like, ugh. Like we
It's the most
associate.
interesting thing in the world.
It's interesting, but like you say the wrong thing in the wrong place. And so something that I've appreciated about you from the very beginning is that you make it engaging, you make it interesting without bringing in all this like mudslinging grossness. So I'm very excited. And I know you're kind of prepared to get us launched. I don't want to step on any toes, so I'm going to just turn it over to you. Thank you for being
Well,
here.
thank you, John. Thank you for being my friend.
Of course.
So I appreciate getting to know all of you guys. So I think that there's a big difference between politics as we know it and policy. So policy is really what is driving our economic system, the positive things that we experience as well as the negative. So politics, to me, that word has gotten a dirty reputation largely because of the media on both sides kind of inflammatizing the topics and the conversations, and they need to sell papers and articles and that, so they do the kind of quick kind of piss you off lines
Right.
that they can put out there. So but that's not what policy is. Policy is actually compromise, it's conversation, it's really understanding where the other person is coming from, even if you disagree with them. I got to do a talk on free speech and free markets because it all ties together. Well, free speech is the free sharing of ideas and thoughts, and there's a reason it's a First Amendment right.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be able to share freely. And with some of this cancel
It's the
culture,
marketplace of ideas.
it is the
It's a
marketplace.
participatory democracy. We have to have the marketplace of ideas.
We have to. And if I'm here judging you and not actually trying to understand what you're saying, and we're not able to freely share because you're worried about it affecting your business and your bottom line, and I'm worried about getting canceled and getting fired from my job, you know, that fear, are we really actually freely sharing? So the Washington Policy Center is a very beautiful and unique space of that free sharing of ideas. They're nonpartisan, nonprofit, and they actually put out educational pieces focused on only the free market. And while other social issues and all of that is very important, we really only focus on the free market. And so we educate not only business owners, I myself got a large education in what a free market system actually was by engaging with Washington Policy Center. And it's that free exchange of ideas, limited government involvement. So one business is not, doesn't have a step up over the other. We see that failing in other countries with crony capitalism, and we see the countries leaning towards communism failing. A really powerful story that a woman shared was in her parents' home country. She was walking down, it was a communist country, and she was walking down, and every vendor had the exact same product, desperately trying to sell it, and they all had to sell it at the same price. That is a controlled system. She said this went on for 3 miles. Every booth was identical, and they all were regulated pricing. That is government involvement and overreach, and that kills businesses. So really, a lot of times we don't know, I didn't know, like, why is gas so much higher in Washington State than it is
Oh, yeah.
than it is in Idaho. And so that has been a great experience to be able to give people that knowledge. Well, it's actually the taxes that our state representatives are putting forward. Many of these state representatives on both sides, actually, they don't sometimes go to the experts. So if I'm gonna go and pass, if I'm a state representative and I'm gonna go pass a bill on law, something that's going to affect the legal field, I should go to the lawyers and the judges who are going to have to implement this and say, what will this do? What are the pros and cons? That's kind of the benefit of the Washington Policy Center, but also how it's helped me be able to have those conversations and be engaged in policy. Policy is what drives everything. It's why gas is more expensive. It's why a product's cheaper. It's why you even notice a difference in Spokane Valley. The roads are actually better. You can feel the difference when you drive on the roads. You literally have less potholes in Spokane Valley than Spokane. They manage their money differently. So it helps you start to look at, well, that's different. So what could Spokane be doing, which is a larger city, to actually fix the potholes that pop tires that Spokane Valley is already doing? We all live in Washington State, but city by city, we start to see a difference. So I started to realize the power of local government. So what I really wanted to pitch today, or not really pitch, but converse about today, is local politics and how it really shapes your free market, how it affects your business. Local city council members have a lot of control over what you guys do. They take the state laws, and I know many of you probably know this, but they take the state laws, and the state kind of gives a broad overview of what they want a city to kind of fall within, but it's within the city to decide, well, how far do we push it? Like if there's a tax increase statewide, local city governments can actually look and say, we don't actually need to increase taxes here in Spokane Valley or Spokane. We can actually say, we don't need more taxes. Sometimes the state laws give them permission to increase taxes, but it doesn't mean the city has to. So I want you guys to think about like the difference between just these cities, and we'll even take Coeur d'Alene to Spokane Valley, to Liberty Lake, to Spokane. I'm sure you guys have seen the disparities. A lot of businesses from Spokane are moving out into Spokane Valley. So there's a lot of hope in that, because people are starting to recognize, well, what's different? We're still in the same state. So that free market of ideas is really powerful and impactful in everyday citizens' lives, but it's also impactful in your business. So what are some of the things that you've seen a noticeable difference at in Coeur d'Alene or in Spokane Valley?
Short-term rentals. Controlling what I do inside my own home, right? I own that space, you know, and telling me who I can and cannot have under my roof and for how long. But at the same time, here come the regulations. And I was shocked when short-term rentals became a thing, and there were initial regulations, it could only be 30 days a year, 60 days a year, whatever it is. I couldn't believe that was to judicial review, but it did. I couldn't believe it. And it sort of opened the floodgates, and now here in Spokane Valley, we're considering what to do. And so this is a hot thing, and it's everything you just said. And I was wondering if you would comment on that from the point of view of a policy institute that favors a free market.
So we completely support property rights. So we push back on anything that infringes on that free market space. So property rights are incredibly crucial to any sort of functioning. It isn't fair or correct or constitutional for them to be able to dictate some of that. While we have to have some regulations, or the citizens in the cities decide on, you know, zoning laws, you will see a difference on how Spokane Valley is pushing back on some of those, or pushing for, as opposed to other areas. So we completely support property rights. You do have a right to build. I come from Texas originally, so born and raised on the Mexican border. Actually grew up on a farm, and what was very different to me is we own property. We were able to build structures and housing and
Road.
road
Yeah.
and do those things on our own property without government regulation and oversight.
You didn't pull permits or no inspectors?
You would have some of it, but a lot more limited, a lot more free, as opposed to right now, I mean, with the, they're pushing for removing natural gas, you know, that push for that, the building
Yes.
codes.
You know, we did vote that in,
Yeah,
so they really don't have a leg to stand on, but here we are.
yeah, but they push on policies that regulate, that really are limiting us in our free market space. So it then passes on, the money ends up passing on to the consumer, to the builder, so prices go up. But yes, you should be allowed to build on your own property. It's property rights, and while we do have limited, we're just really asking for limited government involvement. So it's not that we can have no government involvement in anything, obviously, but we're advocating for limited government. And one of the things that we've seen and what we've noticed is a lot of times our state representatives, our policymakers, don't necessarily go to the experts or people that are experts in the field.
Mhm.
Do you
So
think they're doing that to get a particular outcome? Do you think if they're thinking to themselves, if I go to an expert, I'm not gonna get the answer I want, so I'm just gonna avoid this. I'm just gonna make it up as I go along. I mean, do you think that's what's happening? Or is it more of a rush to deadline, where we don't have time to talk to an expert?
I would say it's multifaceted, to be very honest. I mean, one of the things that I have noticed, again, with a lot of the draw and the federal politics becoming so important, people are starting to pay attention more to the political arena. So sometimes there is this big demand on, if you're a state representative, what bills have you passed? Show me the results. What have you gotten done? Like, why aren't you moving? Why aren't you going forward? There is this pressure and this rush to prove that you have a record and to prove that you're successful. So there is some of that. There's also, I know that there are some out where they're like, I don't know that I'll like what they tell me, and this is what I'm being told by the group line, right? So this is what I'm being told, and so I need to be in unison with my party. We are seeing a lot of party politics, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
We really need that two-party system. We need that free exchange of ideas, and I'm not condemning one side or the other. We're just seeing party politics play out. So sometimes, even if you're like, shouldn't we go to an expert? But in the caucus, I'm like, no, don't step out of line. They work in unison. So there's some of that that's taking place. But what I would say as business owners, what needs to happen, what we need to do, is when we get people into office, whether we supported them or not, if we see them in office, we need to reach out to them and say, hey, you are passing that. I am an expert in this field. We are also called to reach out to them. I think sometimes we vote these individuals in and then we're like, sweet, they're gonna do it. Well, if we're leaving them in their echo chamber of all these lobbyists and all these other special interest groups, what are we really doing to them? Are we helping them? Are we communicating as business owners that I don't like this? Or not? And then we also forget, and I was most guilty of this during COVID. I would forget to thank them for when they did pass legislation or laws that actually made an impact and was constitutional and free market and what I appreciated and what helped my business. We forget to do that. We're always condemning. So you will see them cave to the louder voices sometimes. So even if they might not come to you because they're worried because there's only one of you and there's 20 of them. So they're like, well, I'm not.
Speak so loud.
Yeah, so yes, so that would be my other, so it's kind of multifaceted. You'll see it for multiple reasons.
So this group could have its own, voice. This group could lobby effectively in a local sense.
100%.
And that's interesting. That's the transition that I've been wanting to make, and I think this is a good spot to do it, is the question is, what can we do?
Yes.
Right? And I think that even as you're sharing, I'm going through these phases of emotion or thought of like, I want to get involved. I want to,
Yes.
like, I want my, I don't really know how. And then like, what
And
good
where's that
is my
opening?
voice gonna do? Because
Yeah.
it's just me,
And
one
what do I
person.
know?
What do I know? I don't even know, like,
Yeah.
like you talk about like representatives and it's like, it's just I think for the vast majority, especially of business owners, Like one, it's just this huge world of stuff that we really, it's kind of opaque, not really clear. And then two, it's like we're busy with
You are.
business and clients and all these different things. And it's like, so you kind of have like a moment like right now. And that's what I'm really hoping that in the span of this conversation that we can kind of come up with some really simple, actionable, like, oh, okay, I can do that. And you know, whether it's adding it into a routine, right? Like every Monday I spend 1 hour just connecting with the people that are making decisions on a government level. So anyways, maybe speak to that, but also like conversationally, like really, what are some of your barriers to entry? Because there's people watching online, and one of the important aspects of this is each person at this table, you represent people that are tuning into this, that whatever you're thinking or feeling, they're thinking and feeling it. And if it was just me and Jill talking for an hour, we might not cover those things. So as we're interacting with this, be bold, be maybe a little vulnerable like I just was. Like I'm seriously, I'm clueless about this stuff. And I talk to you and I'm like, I get excited and then I go back to the busyness of business. So speak to that, or maybe let's field some questions on that.
Yeah, I guess to kind of go off of that, like, so I spent time previously managing a health and safety program. And so I know when you look through the requirements, the laws, they're either too complicated to understand, or so you have to look it up and do, I mean, you don't have, an hour won't be enough time. Or they're written so vaguely that you can say, okay, well, I can see where you could catch me here for not doing it right, or you can, maybe if I don't do this thing properly. So I guess my question is, in reviewing things that are up for voting or that people are looking at, and you've already mentioned there's that spin on it, oh, this is what we say it's gonna do. How do I find real solid information about what the law actually means? And not just what someone is spinning it as what the law is gonna do, but what are all the potential effects of the law? Because like you said, it's multifaceted. There's not just one outcome of one law. There's so many different directions it can go based on our own reaction as business owners or a community. So how do we find out to the best of our ability how that is going to impact us and which way we should stand on that issue?
So my first suggestion would be, even if it's, because it is in legalese, it's difficult to understand these bills. And I could speak to whether it's purposeful or not. Like some of them, when you read, certain people read it, you're like, oh, that's really straightforward. Like I don't have to have a law degree to do that. I do still recommend always, at minimum, there's a summary, read the actual summary, then find resources. This is actually how I got connected to Washington Policy. I'm very skeptical of any websites that I go onto, and I found they were very data driven. Just like the Heritage Foundation, that's a national like think tank, but they are very data driven and they tie into a lot of resources and they summarize some of those bills. And that's what Washington Policy did. And I would go and I would look at their data sources and like, where did they pull this from? And as much as I've hit on media, I sometimes will actually go to type it in Google, like this is this bill that's getting passed. And many times you'll actually find some other really good resources because they have to quote those resources. So I literally will go and do an internet search on that. And then I connect to other people that are in the same industry that you're in, that you know the other business owners, and go, what do you think of how this would affect? And how would this change? So those are like the research ways. The other way that I would say is connecting to the actual representatives that wrote those bills. And that sounds really scary. And I know that it sounds like very like vague or far off, but have you guys ever noticed, like if you finally bought a blue Dodge pickup truck, you see a blue Dodge pickup truck everywhere, right? So you kind of see it everywhere. Or if you get involved, like for me, I love photography and I started photography at the age of 15. Well, pretty soon all my friends are doing photography and pretty soon I'm understanding all the different lenses and all this lingo that didn't make sense. It's like you pull the thread and the sweater unravels. Right. This is the same thing. So once you get connected to just a few of your local public servants, you will find that you're connecting to more of them. So it seems like a big barrier. It's actually not. They're pretty accessible. They do put on town halls. It can be a little tricky finding out where you live and who's your actual state representative.
It's tough to get tickets to those town halls. They get bought up right away.
They do get bought up right away.
It's like regular folk don't have real access. It sounds like you should, but you don't.
Yeah, so for the larger ones, that is very true. I'd advocate for you guys going to the smaller, like sometimes again, the federal politics are taking the stage.
Mhm.
And the federal politics should not, one, they should not be affecting your lives as rapidly and as distinct, like, it really shouldn't have mattered who was president so drastically this cycle. It really shouldn't have. All politics is actually local. And so really connecting and getting us to start attending those like city council meetings, connecting with your city council members and starting there. They have direct contact to the state representatives who then have contact to the Senate, who then have contact to the governor, and the governor has contact to the congressman. It kind of bubbles out like that. So once you pull that little thread of one of your local, those would be the best ways. And then finding someone like myself, I can easily help direct you to your local representative and how you could connect with them and in their official capacity.
So, do you work for the state?
I don't. We're nonprofit, but we work very heavily with our public servants who obviously work for the state.
Do you
So-
maintain a library of resources?
We do, is on our website in particular, we have
Sorry,
that.
No, so I'm just trying to understand the basic question of who writes your check? You know, who do you work for? And where does the funding come for this organization called the Washington Policy Center?
Private citizens primarily, some grants. So we have grants, private citizen donations,
Maybe a
some,
foundation or two?
yeah, foundation or two, corporations, some corporations who want to support us. A lot of local small business owners across Washington state, actually, that's
Can we
primarily.
write a bill and propose it, or do you have to be a member of government to do that?
No, you can write a bill. So yeah, you can
Could
actually.
you help us write a bill sometime?
Yeah, so you'd work with a local, so what I would do is I would connect you, you would come up with a bill that you wanna push
Right, like
for.
a paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you would go to your, local state representative, it doesn't even have to be yours, but it could be someone you know would be friendly to that bill. You go and talk with them, and if they like it, then they will go ahead and take your bill and sponsor it, and you'll be listed as like you helped, and they'll consult with you the whole time, and they'll try
How
and
do you
get it
get them to
passed.
follow up and respond, though? You could go in there and be, Einstein, and then you just never hear from them again.
It depends on which ones. So
Yeah.
we do have, I will say that Representative Suzanne Schmidt is the District 4 representative here. I will say that she is the fastest I've seen to respond outside of Jenny Graham, who's in the 6th. They both are women that respond immediately. They really do, and they sit with you and they reach out and they have coffees and they are very engaged.
So someone from your organization could guide us to make it worthwhile.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you suggest that we try that? Should we try to find an issue that's important to us and try to write a bill and try to push it forward?
Yes, you would learn.
Worth our time?
Worth your time.
I like
Because
that.
we're busy entrepreneurs, all of us. I
Yes.
mean,
Absolutely. And what you might find is they might actually already have a bill similar to what you want to write, but that bill hasn't gotten support. This is why advocacy for yourself, even if it's scary, like when I first started writing letters, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a very, my very blessed education from both my parents on how policy and government worked, but when you're actually doing it, I'm like, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. Like, it feels like my business is getting restricted, it feels like I'm being told what to do. For me,
so it felt like government overreach, but instinctively.
instinctively,
Okay.
not just knowledge based. So I would advocate, put together a bill, was able to connect a woman who needed help on a bill for health problems to one of our center directors, connected her there. On the actual government website, you'll find that there's different committees and people sit on different committees based on their expertise and background, the state representatives. So there's a gentleman who is very focused on education. So if that's something that you're interested in, you would contact him and his committee. And while all this sounds like, I know it sounds a little bit overwhelming, I understand that. Again, it's once you and just encourage you guys to just jump in with both feet, because once you get involved, it literally is pulling that string, and all of a sudden you'll be like, I can't believe I have a state senator calling my phone. That's kind of cool. Like, or he told me to call him Bob.
I'll
Like,
call you
okay.
immediately if that ever happens. You'll be the first to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I
freaking
can't
cool.
imagine that actually happening.
It's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
and that brings me to the thought that I've been wanting to weave into this
Yes.
is we're talking about other human beings.
Yes.
And just like, I mean, even like I'm sitting at a table with owners of businesses. I never thought in a million years that I'd be a business owner, and now it's like, I don't know, like it just feels like I'm hanging out with my buddies,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I think, thank you, Lisa. And so similarly, as I've interacted with you and some of the candidates that you've worked with over the years, I've been, I guess the word would be shocked that I'm like, oh, this is just a person.
Mhm.
This is a person just like me that has, you grew up in Texas. I grew up in New Jersey. Like, we grew up in different
Not the
places.
same at all.
No, not the same, but like, we're all just people.
Mhm.
And so I think one of the issues that is coming into focus for me is that, like, we'll take business owners. We're like a weird breed of people. And then like, let's take like church people, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's Catholic or, a different denomination, like there's this like culture to it, right? And like, so like I'm picturing like a group of church people, like, hey, let's have an event where we invite people that aren't church people, right? And so like people come and they're like, I don't know. And I think it's the same with politics
Yeah.
or business. It's like, if we were to like, let's invite a bunch of normal people, non-business owners
Yeah.
into this meeting, like we can't turn off who we are.
No.
And people that are like not of that sort. So I'm not into that scene. I'm
Mhm.
starting to dip my toe, I'm starting to pull on the string.
The string.
But it's like, there's a couple of things. One, I don't know if I want to end up being in that club, right? I go and I'm like, and you're talking about like the smaller city council or neighborhood council meeting. I've been to those meetings and I'm like, like they talked for
They're
2 hours.
long.
Even like PTG, I've been going to my kids' PTG and like, it's stereotypically like you talk about nothing for an hour and then nothing happens.
I thought it was just me.
But let me be a little contrarian,
Yes, please.
I'm on the contrarian side. So I'm listening to all this and I'm going, look, it all sounds good, but the reality is until we change as human beings,
Yeah,
there's always gonna be the tension.
yeah.
So I'm thinking of an example of a friend. So somebody says, well, I don't want to do this. It's an impingement on my freedom, my rights. And I'm going, well, that's true. But for example, I have a friend who's a firefighter. And the industry and demonstration things say, it is better to have connected fire alarms that are in each room, that have this advanced circuitry and sprinkler systems, and all of this thing is good. But it's expensive to the builder. But when it's your life on the line, which do you want? The builder that saved a few dollars so they could build another, 10,000 units of living space, which we all need. We need more places, but the reality is, where do you draw that personal responsibility and personal liberty boundary of saying, yes, what may be legal is not moral or ethical, and vice versa. Sometimes we need to establish these things so that it's not this person who's going to be impacted, it's somebody else. And from a policy point of view, try to tie it back, where does policy come down on that and say the power of the dollar is not important in this circumstance, and we need that regulation in order to to be better people.
And I know you're gonna jump in, but I wanna add, because what Zane was talking about bridges the gap, like that, every one of these policies, even your friend that was walking down the street in a different country with all,
Yeah.
there's this tension, and when we try to read a bit of policy, it's like, well, I could kind of see the value in smoke detectors, or I could see the value in regulating, we don't want the, so I want you to speak to it, but I wanted to add that, because I feel like that is a big part of this question, is like, how do we engage with this as individuals, that I know on the one hand, somebody that is gonna benefit from this, and on the other hand, somebody that's really gonna hurt. And so, yeah, but I'm eager to let you speak to this.
Well, I would first say we can never regulate morality. I mean,
Thank you for
we
saying
saw
that.
that in, prohibition, right? They were trying to regulate something, and really it just created that mob underground, culture, right? So that would be my first comment. So, and this is a little bit more of Jill speaking as opposed to Jill as the Washington policy, but I would say that really what I would notice is that with a free market, we're not advocating for no government involvement, because we have to have some, we're okay to have some government involvement, but we're asking for limited. And I think what we have forgotten, and this ties into what these public servants are feeling pressured to do, is to perform. And sometimes, actually in government, it should actually go slow. Policies should be a slow rollout. We shouldn't be feeling this yank and chain all the time. It should be a slow, steady process. If we study our founding and how our founding fathers set up the system, it was meant to go slow, the checks and balances, because then we would get into okay, how would this regulation affect a smaller builder? What could this do to a smaller builder, this particular regulation? What could it do to change somebody that's building a high rise in Seattle as opposed to somebody that's building, a 3-story building in Spokane? What's the price difference? What's the cost? Will this crush the small business owner? Where does that liberty and freedom that they deserve, their rights, end? Because really, you'll hear this phrase a lot: my freedoms and rights and liberties end when they violate yours. So like, as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm not violating any of your freedoms and rights, but if I reach over and just randomly punch you in the nose, I've now violated your right to your personal safety. So we have to analyze that. And so what we have to do as citizens, I kind of call it, it can be a little difficult at first, but it's cutting to the chase. You guys are all smart business people. And especially as entrepreneurs, I've noticed we have an ability to kind of be like, something smells weird here, right? This doesn't pass the sniff test. What is actually happening? And then digging into the pros and the cons. So you'll find that my personal stance is legislation should be few and far between. I'd actually really like to see a representative come in and say, we're gonna start removing some of these laws and actually start enforcing these laws. Right? So if there is death on a job site due to negligence by somebody, then they can say, you wrongfully didn't protect your employee, right? You didn't protect them. So there can be those checks and balances. I'll use the public safety piece as an example. We're literally starting to want more police on the street, which I'm all for. I'm not anti-police, but we're wanting them on the street, and we're wanting more of them, and yet our current administration in Washington State has taken away, in the past history, they've taken away their ability to pursue. Right now, our police officers cannot stop a minor because it's a violation of that minor's right. So if there's a minor wandering around, as like kind of looking like he's gonna cause trouble or she's gonna cause trouble, they can't stop and detain them and say, where are your parents? What are you doing out here? So we're seeing an uptick in youth crime throughout the entire state because police officers are not allowed to detain a minor. Where they used to be able to detain that minor, call mom and dad and say, hey, we've got your kiddo. It's not no harm to these young people, but it was preventing them from wandering. And so we have those laws being put in place. And while do I think that they purposely thought, oh, we want to have more youth crime? No, but they didn't look at all the pros and cons.
But on the other hand, putting a youth on the street back into a situation in which the parent is a worse perpetrator, is the motivation for the other policy.
Yes.
And so this gets at that and I understood what you said when you said you can't create legal morality, which I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we have to build policies that take the entire circumstance into consideration, that parental rights may be the problem, may be the reason why that youth is on the street. And this is the challenge I always see, which is, don't disagree with this side, but I also understand what this side is getting at, which is putting a child, I come from a conservative family and yet I was still abused. Doesn't make, so putting me back into that situation wasn't the answer. And oftentimes we calculate the cost and values without looking at what the other side would look like. So having, I think it was Dickens who said, you just can't pay enough policemen to have a policeman for every person. So at what point do we say we've got to come up with some new strategy here where we can understand the citizen that's in front of us, what their circumstance is, and safely and securely for the public and the person balance out that right.
So that sounds like a law enforcement social hybrid, and I guess that's the sort of thing you talk about in your policy discussions.
We do. We talk about, and again, it's coming to the table, but moving policy slowly, right? The pros and the cons. Well, so the pro may be that this child doesn't go back to a household that's abusive, but what's the con is there's been an uptick in, youth crime. So it's not the right solution. But instead of implementing it into law, we'll sometimes see that pressure to get bills passed and solutions and reactionary government. I mean, if we all were reactionary in our business, the way our government is reactionary in their laws that they're passing, it's like, first, my dad always taught me, first, if you come into a company or a business or a job and you see a fence put up, you don't just tear the fence down, you ask, why is the fence there? And then once you find out why the fence is there, you still ask, well, is it sturdy enough? Like, if it needs to be there, is it a sturdy fence? Does it need to be boosted? Right? So you ask those questions. You don't just go in and say, tear the fence down, and then be like, oh, oops, the bull's in the china shop, right? But I think that that's what us, and having even these conversations, there's never going to be a perfect bill, but it should move a little slower, and it should go to the experts. It should go to how could it affect then a child going back into a home? Well, one of my criticisms is they've also passed very soft drug laws to try and, for empathy, they're addicts, mental illness, and they've passed very soft drug laws. But because they've passed those, there's now children crawling through fentanyl in their parents' homes. My dog almost got into fentanyl foil on the street, and I panicked. I took her out to go to the bathroom, and my phone rang, and I just happened to glance down, and she immediately went for this fentanyl foil. So that is, yes, well, I have empathy for them and their addiction. I understand that. It's obviously the laws that we've passed are not fixing, it's not helping them, and it's starting to harm me. It's killed children crawling through. So we have to start looking at what is the solution here. And I think as you guys and myself, we've gotten more educated, we're going to have these better conversations. I think we have to stop thinking it's an us versus them, left versus right. We have to stop thinking it that way. And we, as the citizenry, need to say, this law is not working. maybe we need to bring some other experts from all backgrounds and fields into the room to come up with a proper solution.
Do you maintain like a library of experts that if we wanted to write a bill, we could dip into your sort of list of experts? Because we don't have a list of experts in this group ready to go.
Yes, so we personally at Washington Policy Center have 8 center directors. We only focus on 8 things that are affected by the free market. We don't touch on social issues. I did using the public safety because I'm personally very familiar with it, but we don't touch on a lot of the social issues. We focus very much on free market. But what you'll find is there's a lot of associations. The Realtor Association focuses obviously on any sort of building and real estate. The Spokane Home Builders, there's ABC that focuses for the trades and advocating for trades and free markets there. You'll find that there's other organizations for social, like police departments. You'll find there's things that focus on those social issues. There is a library, and we do connect you to people that we know, even if they're in the social, we know that they support the free market, so we are comfortable giving them as like a referral. So that we do have a directory. But I will advocate over and over, one of your best sources is your local representative. And then if you find that they're not one of your best sources, I would aggressively advocate that you replace them. So that would be one of my suggestions.
So on the transition, we're getting close to the end here. I want to kind of wrap this up or put a bow on it, however you want to say that. What's a good way, and I do ideally, I would love to see us create an advocacy group amongst ourselves. Obviously there's already some, like I am a realtor, so I'm part of RPAC and you know, all of that stuff by default. And so there's a lot more conversation to be had there. I don't think we have enough time to really like build something, but I'd like to keep that conversation open and create room for it. But for an individual, somebody that's like, okay, you talked me into it, I probably need to find out a little bit more about this whole thing. How can they start to connect with Washington Policy Center or, you know, outside of that, connect with their representative? How do I find out who represents me out there?
So have any of you guys ever logged into your voter portal, like to track your ballot? Have you ever logged into that? Okay, so
At the last election.
yeah, I think, is it voter? I'll get you the exact link, so don't quote me on this, but it's basically, I think it's voter.wa.gov, I believe is the website. I'll get you the exact, I'll give you the exact link. Once you go to the link, you'll put in your name and you'll put in your birth date and you'll be logged in. And you will have this awesome little like menu, and you'll go to that menu and you'll be able to see every representative that you would, based on your address, that is your representative.
Okay.
And then honestly, you can just look up their name, and each one of them has an official line, like an official phone number and email, each one. So that's a really great way if you're like, I really want to know who they are and if they're willing to call me.
Okay.
And so then you'll know where you live, you'll know who's, like I recently moved to the Valley, so I switched from District 6. So Jenny Graham was mine to now Representative Suzanne Schmidt is now my representative. So I know those boundaries now just because I've been in, but honestly, like 3 years ago, I was like, I just live in Washington, like they're all mine, right? So that would be a really good resource, that particular one, because then it leads you to who your representative is. I really also, I really recommend, there is, oh gosh, I just blanked on the name of it. I think it's votesmart.org. They take bills. I believe they're more federal, but they take bills and they simplify them, and I really like that. Ballotpedia, are you guys familiar with Ballotpedia? Okay.
That's a big site.
It's a great site. Like a lot of people are on Ballotpedia. You can go and read the particular structures of Washington state government, how it's like, even fun facts like Washington state is a jungle primary, which means 2 candidates of the same party can make it through in the general. We're not used to that because federally it has to be a Democrat and a Republican, but like here it could be 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. It's actually kind of fun. I kind of like the jungle primary.
Yeah.
So
You're crazy.
I know it's fun though.
That's curious, real quick question, do you track the number of Republicans and Democrats in the organization?
In ours,
Yeah.
no, we don't, because we really have that diverse of a base. My group, actually, my young professionals group, everybody that comes in, I'm like, you're welcome to talk politics. Like, that's why we're here, policy and politics. I was like, but we foster a community of respect and open dialogue, and and that's what we're doing. Don't assume just because you're all free market, like that's kind of the baseline, is they all support the free market. I said, don't just assume you're one party over the other. So it's really awesome. Unfortunately, in this day and age, only because some of the majority party currently, they're kind of again in that unison, they're not as pro free market. So we are seeing some dwindle from the Democrat side, we are, unfortunately. But we are actually seeing an increase on the younger side of other individuals of different political backgrounds, because they're kind of like, but we support the free market. So they're really looking for that more. We all kind of hover actually around the middle, we actually all kind of do. I think we need to stop thinking, again, this is Jill advocating.
Yeah.
I hate the us versus them. I have literally here in Spokane County, been on 20,000 doors personally the last couple of years, talking to voters, running campaigns. That's what I did. And my entire mindset was shifted on how much our community actually wants all the same thing, no matter their background.
That's what's bubbled up for you.
Yes, and I will tell you, I had, I was campaigning for a Republican candidate, and I was at this door, and this woman was like, "Oh, honey, I'll never vote for your candidate. You're so cute, though." She's like, "You want some water? Where's your team at?" And she's like, "Hey guys, you guys need water?" And she was like, "You mark my house down as if any of you guys need to stop and use the bathroom. I know you ladies, like you're a big team of ladies." She was like, "You come and use it." And I was like, wow, what? Like, that's not what's playing out on the federal right stage. And then I had another woman who was just like the best thing ever, and she was like, "Oh, I'll help you." And I was like, "Well, would you vote for this person?" She goes, "I don't know yet, but you know what?" She's like, "I like your enthusiasm, and I like your exercise, and you're right. Let's talk about this, and I'll help you out." And she just, I mean, like those kinds of people, they're just, and they're from all backgrounds, and they were all backgrounds, and that's.
Keeps you wanting coming back. You want
Yeah, it does.
to find more people like that.
I do, and I find them all the time. I'll be honest, I find them all the time. But it's really, we just have to stop thinking us versus them. It's what do we agree on? And I love this quote. An 80% friend does not make a 20% enemy.
True.
That has been the quote, and that is what I instill in my young professionals group, because I directly manage that. But honestly, that is the culture of Washington Policy Center. They're like, we all agree that we want thriving families, communities, and businesses. We all agree on that free market. Let's stop looking at titles, and let's look at actually like, how do we achieve that?
It's awesome. I love it.
Jill, by the way, you were correct. It is vote.wa.gov. However, when I went there, they did update this. They have a new state voter portal experience. So I don't know if we have to start over and read. But anyway, it looks
Good.
the same to me, but they say it's new. But yeah.
Vote.wa.gov.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, well, we're gonna wrap this up. What about somebody that's like, obviously they're watching and they wanna maybe look into getting into politics, like doing what you do, being a senator, being a representative. Where would they start that process?
So you would start by obviously connecting with your most local like representative, which is like a lot of times your council members are most accessible. That you can go and attend the council meeting and wait till the end and then go ask and talk to them directly. That would be great. There are other organizations. There's an organization for female candidates called A League of Our Own. They do candidate training. The Spokane Home Builders Association does candidate training.
Okay.
They are hosting like a candidate seminar, so they do that. There's a couple other organizations that you could like look up. Actually, our website, the state website, the Spokane County website, has really great resources for if you want to be a candidate. So you just go to SpokaneCounty.org, I think it is. I think it's .org.
Okay.
And you go on there and you type in candidate or elections, there's really great resources there. They list out the deadlines, they list out how to do it. That's a really powerful resource. And that would be really where I would start, and then get educated, use think tanks, get educated on the bills. Read the paper, like read the political pieces in the paper, see if it makes sense to you, what you could find. Those are good things to start at.
Perfect.
And then I did want to plug my event.
Yes,
Is that
please,
okay?
yeah.
Okay, so we have a huge event coming up on May 21st. It's called our Spring Fling, and this is it's very fun. It's how culture directly shapes policy.
Nice.
Because actually policy and politics is all downriver from culture. So it's how to recognize propaganda and how culture shapes the policy. May 21st at the Montvale Hotel. It is a ticketed event, so tickets are $25. If you are a Washington Policy member or Young Professionals member, it is free. So if you're a donor of Washington Policy Center or you're a member of the Young Professionals, which I'm gonna pitch this,
Yes.
$10 more, and if you're between 18 and 39, you become a member for a full year and get into every one of those events for free.
Very cool.
But it's awesome. She's an expert. She graduated from New York University, and she's very impressive. And I think you'll really love it. I think the doors open at 5 or 5:30, and I'll get you the link as well. But it's on our website. Really
Awesome.
cool event.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
in.
so much for
It's
having
awesome.
me. Yeah.
Mike, take us away.
There you have it. And one of the cool things about the Washington Policy Center is they throw a kick-ass party every September. I'm always there. I want to thank you, Jill, for coming on the podcast. Thank our host, and thank you, the viewer, for watching this all the way to the end. Be sure to like and smash the bell. That's the only way to ensure that the video feeds are going to continue to be in your YouTube feed. Thank you all, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Yay.